Hey everyone. Okay, so right out of the gate, I really do love the route Mashima took the final moments of this fight, with Ziggy choosing to parallel the past and Shiki's time training with Ziggy to that of the present, and how not only that only was Shiki able to easily able to telegraph Ziggy's moves because of that past experience, but it also allowed him to deduce that Ziggy never actually reverted to being evil last chapter. This was him not only doing exactly what the citizens of Granville had done for him, but this was also Ziggy's, it was his very roundabout way of giving Shiki his one final lesson, which is to never give in to darkness, never let yourself give in to despair, which is pretty standard stuff, but the one thing Ziggy wanted more than anything else is to know that his beloved grandson wouldn't become like him, which in itself makes me wonder how much of the Ziggy we saw from Eden's One arc up to now was truly evil, and how much of who he was he had been holding on to. Although I am assuming whoever was, although this actually does raise the question if someone was still controlling Ziggy, or if that was just kind of another way of trying to in order to get Shiki to kill him, but regardless of what, it definitely ultimately Prince Ziggy's main goal was achieved. He ensured that fate never happened. That he wanted to ensure that fate would never happen. What happened to him would never happen to Shiki, or hopefully anyway. Because if that person controlling Ziggy still exists, then I wouldn't like to see where we take that. I would like to see where we take that angle, but also I would like to see how the idea of both versions of Shiki, the one we know and the one who became Ziggy, who became Ziggy being, and how they exist as people out of time can be explored. I'd really like to see that part. Moving on from that, though, is in knowing that this battle was more or less Ziggy giving Shiki his final lesson, we obviously learned that Pino was alive, and I'm weirdly mixed on this, because on one hand, knowing what we know now, yes, it does make sense that Pino is alive, and I did more or less call it last chapter. So I'm not necessarily faulting Mashima for bringing her back, but I'm not going to lie, with Mashima promising us that things were going to start getting tragic, I half expected her to be dead and remain dead, at least until Shiki brought her back via wish to mother. I mean, the way he spent the way Mashima spent the time building up to her final moments before killing her necessarily, and giving us that heartfelt goodbye between Shiki and Pino last chapter, it does feel like a little bit of the emotional manipulation that Mashima pulled a lot with Fairy Tail, which, again, this, I want to make clear, to me, it's what's done here is still done a lot better in context of Ziggy's behavior during the fight as to why Pino isn't dead, but it just feels like I got emotionally attached to Shiki and Pino's goodbye for no other reason now. But with that being the case, however, Mashima did still follow through where it mattered by forcing Shiki to kill Ziggy. It was clear in that moment that no matter how much of his old self had returned, the Ziggy we and Shiki had known he was basically gone. He was still ultimately going to revert to his darker self. So the only way was to kill him, was to be killed by himself, his own grandson. And yeah, there is definitely a tragedy to the idea of being killed by yourself. And honestly, this just feels don't get me wrong, I really like how Mashima handled this, but I will admit, I think this is one of those moments that will definitely be enhanced a lot more with an anime adaptation, with where we've got the soundtrack, the voice acting, all the fixings. I don't get me wrong, I did like that Shiki did kill Ziggy, but it's I feel I'm gonna get even more emotionally attached when we see this adapted into the anime. With that said, I do want to talk about expectations beyond this chapter, because if it is in fact still true that someone was controlling Ziggy and that wasn't just a ploy of some kind, then we need to know who it is, at least within the next couple of chapters. Like, there's no avoiding it anymore, because with Ziggy dead, there are honestly only a few routes I can see Mashima going from here, because like pretty much Ziggy was the character I think many of us saw as the overarching antagonist of the whole series. So now the only option left is to find the person who was controlling Ziggy. And honestly, whether it's actually her or not, I can definitely see us making a full steam ahead journey towards Mother now with the whole struggle with Ziggy basically ended now. Like, that seems like the only direction we can go now, with so many things already more or less tied up in this arc. I'm not seeing too many narrative avenues to explore unless Mashima does a few smaller arcs in between. But yeah, I think we are headed full steam ahead into pretty much into the final arc, or whatever's gonna, or however that kind of plays out from here. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Analyst, Crunchyroll. Be sure to notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and just share it around, guys. Dark Knight Renee, signing off. Later, everyone.